Greetings everyone and welcome to episode 2 of Angel and the Fade Tarot. This is actually a bit of a special weekend for me. Turns out this is the 10-year anniversary of when I first started my tarot journey. So happy tarot birthday to me. Today I'm going to be speaking about the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot, which I briefly introduced you to in episode 1. The deck I have here was a gift from my fantastic friend Mags, who has a channel, the Woodland Hag. Fantastic channel, and I advise you to all check it out and subscribe. The link is down in the info. And yeah, this is an absolutely extraordinary deck. I don't have any other decks like this. The energy of it is very different to basically everything else. The artwork, definitely not for everyone. This is not a deck that I use for daily readings or generally even readings that I pay for. This is pretty much strictly for myself or extremely close friends. In fact, I had a friend who asked me for a reading off of this deck yesterday, and they liked it so much they've actually bought a copy themselves. So fantastic. Something unique about this deck, well, not unique to this deck, but different off of your standard tarot deck. A standard deck, as you know, is 78 cards. The Ghosts and Spirits Tarot actually has 79. They've put in an extra card, this one here, we can see. And this card, it has no name. It isn't anything specific. It isn't related to any specific suit. This card is intended for self-interpretation and self-introspection. If you're perhaps a little bit more stuck on a question, you can actually take out this card and in effect meditate on it. You'll actually see in this card a theme that is in a lot of this deck. Pretty much every card in this deck, there are faces. There are a lot of faces. There's faces everywhere. I've had this deck now almost a year, and to be quite honest, every time I look at the cards, I see something new in the pictures. They're very intense, very complex drawings. We'll start off here with the beginning of the tarot, and that is, of course, the Fool. Some bad light there. I apologise. So if you look here, you can actually see what I mean about there being faces literally everywhere. It's a little out of focus there. There you go. You can see in the rocks here, we have a face on virtually every single rock. The background here, the trees, everything, and we have the Fool. He's embarking on his journey. Various creatures behind him, around him. He's entering this strange land. There are dangers ahead, but you know what? He doesn't care. He's full of that energy of youth and excitement, and he's going to take on the world. We take a look at the card people needlessly fear. Everyone's favourite, possibly the most famous card in the tarot deck. Death himself or herself. I don't actually know if Death has a gender. Again, this is actually one of my favourite death cards. It is absolutely stunning. It's actually a lot brighter and more colourful, I think, than a lot of the death cards in my other decks. Although we have the darkness of death, we have light behind it. There's light coming forward. You can actually see around here as well. There's a highlight of that in the wisps which come off of the Reaper. And and it reminds us that death is about change. It isn't about actual physical death. The death card is the ending of one thing and the beginning of something new. This is actually a thing that I literally just noticed this morning. This is one for any fans of Miyazaki's work. For those who don't know, he's a Japanese artist. Has made some of my all-time favorite animated films. Totoro, Ponyo, fantastic films, but I digress. For anybody who is also a fan of that show and has watched the film Princess Mononoke, we have the Emperor. Now, to me, this reminds me so much of the great forest spirit in that film. There's just everything about it. The ethereal form of it. Once they've the bad guys in that film behead the great forest spirit, and it evolves into this destructive force, ethereal. This card, of course, doesn't have any of that. The Emperor is more about reasoning, experience, and authority. Now, this is one of the decks that, as you know, a few weeks back I was being stalked by some cards, and one of those cards was the Star. Now, this again is my absolute favourite depiction of the Star. I love this, and again, I don't think I can actually form the right words to say how much I love the art on these cards. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, like I was saying, there's a very unique energy with this deck, and it's certainly not for everyone. This is by no means a beginner's deck. Also, it does come with the little white book. And I should have said right at the start, and I apologise to the creator in advance. This deck is actually by the amazing Lisa Hunt. She has a range of decks, and artwork is second to none. She is one of my favourite tarot artists. Yes, the book fairly basic. We just have a look in here. What you get, I don't know if you can see that properly or not. For example, here we have the Page of Swords, a little out of focus. You get, it explains what the spirit on the card is, its history, its background, and you get a very short divinationary meaning to it. So for divining purposes, pretty much what you get is keywords more than a full-on actual meaning behind the card, which personally I prefer that. I like to do my readings more on intuition, and I'll be speaking more about that in a future episode. So yes, that's the Ghosts and Spirits Tarot. Again, like I said, one of my favourite decks. Absolutely stunning art again. Yeah, so that's it for this episode. And I am sorry about the delay in getting this to you. There's been a few busy weeks with work and life. You know how that goes. So yeah, I will hopefully see you all in episode 3, and I wish you blessings and a good weekend.